coming in. Hello, people of the valley. This is WXJM Harrisonburg 88.7 on your FM dial.
Yeah.
And it is your favorite hour of the week, the Sam and Dan Show.
The hour of Sam and Dan.
The 1 hour power hour of the hour, on the hour, 6 to 7, every Wednesday.
On Wednesday.
On the Sam and Dan Show.
Okay.
88.7, WXJM Harrisonburg. Thanks for listening, everybody.
And as you listeners can tell, we got Sam back in studio. He's recovered from his mono. He's stronger than ever.
Yep. More powerful and ready to go, ready to crank out another show.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I missed you guys last week, but I hope you were able to tune in. We had special guest West Virginia Rob on the show.
Always a treat. Always a treat.
And it was quality.
Yeah,
it was good stuff.
It was good stuff. But Sam, you know, he's been laid up. He's been studying this entire time he's been away. He's been working. He's concocted a very interesting topic for us to talk about today. And it's something we've had viewers or listeners suggest to us.
People have been flooding our inbox with requests for this topic.
Nonstop. And so we figured we might as well hit you people with it. And that, of course, is time travel. And the question, is it possible? You know,
and what about it? You know,
Yeah.
Time travel is a pretty broad topic.
Mm-hmm.
There's lots of things you can be looking into with time travel. Lots of ins and outs, ups and downs, forwards and backwards, todays and tomorrows and yesterdays that you can be thinking about with time travel.
And so we figured there's so many variables that go into time travel. Instead of just hitting you guys with a bunch of science mumbo-jumbo and facts and stuff, we're going to give you some stories and some examples, and we'll let you guys come to your own conclusions at the end. We won't tell you guys what we think about it too much. Of course, we are going to throw some commentary in there.
You know, you got to leave some of this stuff up to interpretation on the audience's part.
Yeah, but most of it we interpret for you to save you the brain trouble.
Yeah, because I mean, it's hard to wrap your mind around. It's like a Mobius strip of a topic.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, that's a one-sided object that exists in three-dimensional space. They're pretty cool. Look them up if you want.
Cool. Yeah.
And there's just a lot of brain processing going on that we have done for you in easily digestible chunks, like a mother bird feeding the baby birds.
Yeah, we pre-chewed it. You know.
It's just ready to go.
Yeah, we're ready to drop it in your mouth for you.
Right, a knowledge bomb on the way.
Yeah. So we're gonna start off with a really interesting story about a man who went by the name John Titor or Titor.
John Titor.
Yeah, it's Titor. He was a time traveler who first appeared in I should say alleged time traveler.
Right. It's hard to prove this stuff definitively because you know, how do you know if someone's actually from the future or not?
Yeah, unless you're from the future too. And then you can definitively say, yeah, that guy's from the future. I rember him.
Right.
We were there.
Like, thinking back to, like, elementary school, if someone was like, hey, this and this is going to happen, Donald Trump's going to be elected president, something like that, way back in, like, 2000-something, then I would know they were a time traveler. But I only know that now because I've lived through the future that they described.
Yeah. And there were a lot of time travelers in elementary school, apparently.
Right.
So.
In fact, most time travelers have been through elementary school at some point in time in their lives.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm trying to get my mic
some technical difficulties.
So,
Dan's
Sam,
wrapped up.
Take it away,
right.
Sam.
Okay. So John Titor, famous time traveler, posted on many online bulletin boards in 2000, 2001. For those of you who weren't alive back then, which is many of our listeners, that was a pretty boring time. Not a lot going on back in the early 2000s. It was the Wild West of the World Wide Web. They used to call it the Wild World Wide West Web.
Yeah.
Actually. Well, the hip people did anyway.
Yeah.
And there was... online forums are really popular. They didn't have videos back then, really.
There's nothing better to do with your time, really, than talk with, anonymous people online, really.
Right. So just text-based communication, maybe a couple photos here and there.
Yeah.
So John Titor first appeared on the Time Travel Institute forum. So some people may say, oh, that's a little too obvious, but where else would you go, really?
Yeah. I mean, if you're a time traveler, you can't really post on any other forum without first visiting the Time Traveler Forum to let people who are interested in the topic know that you're a man of incredible knowledge and experience, and you can enlighten a lot of things for them. So I think that was definitely a smart choice to start off, your journey.
Right. That's the brain center of the time traveling community, especially in 2000 because YouTube didn't exist.
Some of the greatest minds coming together around that time.
It was like a Mensa meeting, essentially. Lots of brain power concentrated in one single online website. So the John Titor, he first appeared, on the Time Travel Forum, and he moved slowly onto the Art Bell Forum.
Yeah,
and that's where things really took off.
You know what happened is, the Art Bell Forum, if you guys don't know, Coast to Coast AM. It's a radio show. It's the second most popular paranormal radio broadcast in the U.S. Of course, behind the Sam and Dan Show.
Far second place.
Yeah, far second place.
I think
really,
they've got about 125 unique listeners.
Yeah.
We got more than that. 125 million.
Yeah, we got 125.
We got more than that though.
Plus. So
you got to throw that plus in there. In fact, we're getting a call right now from one of the
many listeners.
Millions and millions of listeners out there. Dan, would you mind taking this for the station?
Absolutely.
All right, so Dan is fielding calls right now. They're already rolling in. Again, thank you to our fans. We appreciate your support and your contributions to our discussion. Dan's getting some intel from one of our operatives in the field, it sounds like. All right. Oh, this sounds good. All right, we're bringing something up in the database. And I know I've promised this before to you listeners, but we are working on getting cell phone calls patched into the system. It's still a work in progress. I don't know what's taking so long. We've sent up every request we can, but we're doing everything we can to get live calls on the Sam and Dan Show. All right. So Dan is bringing up.
I'm bringing him up right now in the database.
Our caller has mentioned Corey Goode, who is apparently a famous time traveler. All right, Dan, you care to fill us in? I hope you guys enjoy our background music that we have. It's pretty relaxing. Heavy on the alternative genre. This is Do You Dream by In Heaven. For those that don't know, WXJM is a college radio station. So, it is primarily independent music and alternative music.
All right, we're back. That was a caller.
Yep,
in case you guys didn't know that was a caller. It wasn't just me talking to myself. It was indeed another person. And they brought to our attention the case of Corey Goode. He's I guess you could call him a researcher / paranormal investigator, but he's interested in the secret space program and really the connection between that and time travel, which, I've read about Corey Goode before, and I think he's a fascinating person, and we'll have to cover that when we cover, secret space programs and maybe some other government cover-ups.
Right. If they exist.
Yeah, that could be going on. But thanks for calling. Corey Goode, if you guys get the chance to look him up, he's got some fascinating books and YouTube videos up about the secret space program. Just juicy info.
Oh, boy. I'm kind of surprised. I mean, I thought all the space programs that I know about were pretty public. So we got like SpaceX, shooting a car up there.
Yeah.
Cars are pretty intertwined with time travel, as we'll see soon.
Yeah, ka-chow.
But maybe that is one of those layered elements, like the 7-layer dip of time travel.
Mm-hmm.
And space is perhaps one of those layers.
Yeah, definitely. And you got to scoop through it.
And you got to give it a fat scoop.
Yeah.
To get all the way, get the whole picture.
Get to the cheesy bottom, which is time travel.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, getting back to John Titor, or Titor, or
his name was only written down. No one ever said it out loud.
No one's ever said it out loud. No recording. So,
right. So we're just freeballing it here.
Yeah. So anyways, on these forums, he claimed that he was sent back in time from the year 2036 by the military, by the U.S. military at that time, in order to obtain an IBM 1500 computer from 1975. But along the way, he stopped in 2000, 2001 to pick up some knickknacks, some mementos from the good old days, back when his relatives were alive during this time. So he said that he stopped here for personal reasons to pick up some pictures and such, because from the future John Titor came from, there was an enormous civil war that destroyed a lot of these things.
Absolutely huge war.
Yeah, just the biggest war you could imagine. Think of the biggest war, now times it by 2, and that's the sort of civil war we're talking about. So, a lot of his things got destroyed, so he went back in time to go snag them before that happened again. Of course, on his way to pick up the IBM computer. And do we have any idea as to why he would be going back in time for such an old computer?
Right. Well, for those who don't know, Sam of the Sam and Dan Show is actually a computer scientist.
Yeah.
That's me.
Yeah.
The IBM 1500 computer, we actually got one of those in the studio. It powers a lot of our Wixom database.
Yeah, our soundboard is actually an IBM 15100.
And it works really well. It is one beautiful machine, solidly built. It's like a chunk of concrete that can think.
It's invincible.
Really. Yeah, so I can see why they would want to study these in the future. For those unaware, modern technology has becoming more and more fragile
Yeah, it's
as
pathetic.
we come along. You've seen the amount of broken screens. Believe me, this computer, this would break anything you throw at it.
Yeah.
Before it cracks.
Absolutely.
So they're probably trying to study in the future, how to make robust electronics again.
Or it's also a possibility, because it was such a heavy, indestructible machine, they wanted to bring it to the future and throw it at their enemies, maybe use it as a projectile of some sort to do some serious damage.
Right. I imagine if you dropped this computer on another computer in the future, it would destroy the far inferior future computer.
Yeah.
Probably made of glass or something like
Yeah.
you're seeing in those TV shows.
Yeah, definitely. Or if you dropped it on your enemy's foot, it would crush their foot. They wouldn't be able to use it anymore. Just a machine of many uses, really, is what we're getting at.
Right.
Just infinite uses.
And another thing, you could use it to debug legacy programs in the future, which is one of the stated goals of this time travel mission.
Yeah.
Why they sent John back, is to be able to uncover a lost programming language and rebuild a future program.
Absolutely.
So it really just makes sense when you think about it, as outlandish as it may seem. But there are reasons why you would want to do that.
He on the same forum where he was talking about the computer, which of course we're talking about the Art Bell forum where he started posting regularly. He also said that he stopped in 2000s to warn us about the upcoming Civil War, which I mentioned previously, as well as Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease, which which spreads through beef products. Now both these things haven't happened. There hasn't been a bad outbreak of the disease.
I remember there was a huge mad cow disease in the early 2000s.
Yeah, there definitely was.
Pretty similar.
It's definitely possible that he could have gotten his beef diseases mixed up, because there's so many.
There are a lot of beef diseases
how
out
do you
there.
keep track of them? He could come back in time. He's thinking mad cow disease, but Creutzfeldt-Jakob disease just rolls right off the tongue. So, honest
Like
mistake.
butter.
Like butter. Yeah. Okay. You also made the claim that UFOs that we were seeing were actually time travelers, which I think is an interesting claim because of the vehicle that he actually used to time travel, which is something we're about to get into right now.
Right. So, looks to me like he recorded his vehicle of choice for traveling through time was a 1967 Chevrolet Corvette.
Hot dog.
So, that's a pretty nice machine.
Absolutely.
Time machine or not. I don't know how he got such an old vehicle
Me neither.
without time traveling in the first place. But, since apparently we went not as far back to get the computer. But who am I to question a time traveler?
It's the classic chicken and the egg story. Who came first, the Corvette or time travel? It's
Right.
impossible to say.
Exactly. Did he build it into the Corvette, or did he go back in time and then put it in a Corvette?
Yeah, just so we could
Yeah, we don't know how that works, but I mean, he's definitely got taste and style, so you got to give him props for that. He also Titor himself uploaded several scans of his manual, the user manual for his time machine.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a C204 time displacement unit, allegedly manufactured by General Electric in the year 2034.
Yeah.
And he posted the diagrams and schematics and some photographs of the device installed in his time machine. So, Dan, could you tell us a little bit more about some of the technical background of this machine that he exposed to the public?
Oh, absolutely. He recorded the build of this time machine, so we could use the information and maybe further our time machine building, and just to add credibility to his story. And before I get into the real details of this, I gotta say the time.
It's time for a PSA.
Yeah.
Speaking of time travel,
Yeah.
we are speeding through this show, and we're going to load you up a PSA from the man himself. You know, the man, capital M, man, government man. But scroll up. And we're gonna toss you a 30-second one so we can get right back to the action. All right?
That's why I registered with Selective Service when I turned 18. What's real about Selective Service? Well, it turns out it's really important. If you don't register, you can miss out on important opportunities like student loans, government jobs, citizenship eligibility for immigrants, even a driver's license in most states. Plus, supporting your country is just about the realest thing you can do.
Guys, register with Selective Service online at sss.gov or the post office. Keep your options open and keep it real.
All right, we're back. WXJM Harrisonburg,
88.7 on your FM dial.
Sam and Dan show.
Make sure you register for Selective Service. I'm pretty sure it's illegal if you don't.
Yeah, so get that done.
Right.
And you might, honestly, if you do, you might get drafted and sent back in time with a Corvette.
Right.
So,
anything's possible when
yeah.
you're serving your country.
Really, it's a win-win. Everybody wins.
All right, so let's jump into the technical details. Dan.
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
you've been studying up on this.
Oh, absolutely.
So blast us with some knowledge.
Yeah, I've been diving into quantum mechanics over this week, quick dummies guide or crash course. And so his verbatim description of his time travel machine in layman's terms, he said it was a stationary mass temporal displacement unit powered by two topspin dual positive singularities, which results in a standard offset Tipler sinusoid.
Ah, of course.
Yeah, and simply what that means is that he blasts through time by blasting a hole in it. Of course, the Tipler sinusoid is what I'm talking about.
Right.
He blasts a hole right through time, and he drives through it in his Corvette.
But what about the huge amount of X-rays that you would generate with that sort of machine?
That's very interesting to bring up. Of course, creating such enormous sinusoids would result in tons of X-rays, and he lists more specs that he included on his Corvette, which I'll relate to you now. He said he had 2 magnetic housing units for the dual micro singularities. Of course, if you don't have the housing units, how are you going to have micro singularities?
Right.
First off,
pretty obvious.
yeah. So of course, he also had an electron injection manifold, which altered the mass and the gravity of the micro singularities. If you have micro singularities,
You got to change their mass.
Yeah,
You can't have full-scale
Yeah.
microsingularities just floating around in your vehicle with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely not full mass ones. And of course, going back to the X-ray problem, he had a cooling and an X-ray venting system. Because
all right.
he doesn't want his bones to be X-rayed all the time, and time to know how bad his bones are. Of course.
Right, because then they could, if he ever got captured behind enemy times.
Yeah.
Get it? All right.
Yeah.
That they could see that he's been exposed to massive amounts of X-rays,
Yeah.
and then verify that he's from the future.
Time soldiers they can pick up information that's been lost in time. That's their job. Time soldiers and time spies as well.
Mm-hmm. But what about the issue of keeping a precise count of where he is in time? Surely he had to have some kind of timing device built into his time machine, Dan.
Well, it's funny you should mention that. When you're traveling through time, a normal clock is not going to cut it. You can't have your iPhone or your galaxy or whatever people use to tell time, or a watch, whatever that is.
My electronic quartz timepiece.
Yeah. None of those things are going to work. You got to have something that will accurately tell you time. And the most accurate teller of time known to man,
An hourglass.
close. Actually, cesium clocks. 4 of them.
Close second.
To make sure he really got time straight, 4 cesium clocks. There's no room for messing up around there. That time is laser accurate.
Dang, that's incredible. 4 cesium clocks. I don't know most people who even have one of those.
Yeah.
So he was pretty serious about the time travel, huh?
Yeah, and keeping track of time. He's very punctual. He also he had 3 main computer units installed in the car to control all this technology. You got to have a brain behind all that brawn, if you know what I mean.
Right, I know what you mean. So we're gonna dive with all that technical know-how behind his back. John Titor was able to make some pretty heavyweight predictions. So one of them, pretty groundbreaking. He subscribed to the many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, meaning that events in his timeline may vary from his own.
Yeah.
So it's possible that John, by coming back to avoid the American Civil War in 2008, actually prevented it through his actions. Butterfly effect.
Yeah.
How one small change can have huge ripples that pass throughout time and have effects far beyond our normal understanding.
It's possible that he went back in time. He found the IBM 1500 computer, and he took it. And perhaps this computer belonged to a man who was just getting into the coding game, and he was really excited to get his first computer. And John Titor, he comes and takes it, and it turns out that this man would have mastered coding and would have coded a third world war to happen in the future with his incredible knowledge of computers, thus stopping the Civil War that sent him back in time originally to go get the computer.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
All right, computer scientists can confirm you could code something like that.
Yeah. You go into the government system and you type
World War III equals true start run method.
and it's game over right there. So definitely a possibility.
And, just the power of computing is why we keep the Wixstrom mainframe behind 3 locked doors, 1 angry junkyard cat, and a couple padlocks and chains just to be safe.
Definitely. And the keys to the padlocks are
covered in butter.
Yeah. Try picking them up.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, we can't even pick them up. That's what we have interns for. But anyways, getting back into it, the Civil War / World War III that John Titor, he predicted, he said it would split the U.S. into 5 factions.
That sounds interesting.
Yeah, effectively ending the U.S. and instead creating 5 nations that would fight each other and the rest of the world as well. Really not a good strategy for fighting a world war, making your army even smaller and splitting it between 5 groups. But
right, that doesn't sound very strategic to me.
And the other question I have in terms of that, which he never clarified, which military did he belong to? Which of the 5? He didn't specify the names of the 5 or which military he belonged to, or which was the best and which sucked. So I don't know. It's just food for thought.
That's definitely something interesting to think about. I believe he claimed to be part of the U.S. military, but when you split the U.S. into 5 pieces, which one is the real U.S.?
Exactly. Which one is? I imagine they would all be calling themselves the U.S.
I think we've got a Theseus's ship paradox here.
Absolutely. Just a classic case. Just a classic.
Right. So some criticisms of Mr. Titor.
Yeah, there are quite a few.
People claim that the device used for time travel could not have worked. So, Dan, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, here's the thing. As I specified, his device, a lot of really long words, a lot of powerful quantum electron blasters and such.
X-ray venting.
Yeah, X-ray venting. It seems
solenoids.
Like he had everything in order. He had the Corvette, which is, as everybody knows, it's the most conducive to time travel besides a DeLorean.
Right, of course.
Second most conducive to time travel.
It's all in the body shape, really.
Yeah, of course. It just slices right through time. But anyways, how can people say that his time travel method didn't work if we've never time traveled? You know, we
That's
don't
a
know
pretty
how
good
it
point.
works. Obviously, we don't know how it works. So how can they say that he can't time travel? Okay, how dare they? First off,
Right. I think that sounds like poor losers
hmm
trying
they're jealous.
who have tried time travel and failed miserably,
Yeah.
who are trying to stop the advancements of others in this field out of jealousy and pettiness.
Here's what probably happened. They got their Corvettes, and they had everything set up, you know, and they're about to rip a Tipler Sinusoid, but they forgot the magnetic housing units for their dual micro singularities. So how you gonna
Right.
time travel without those?
Absolutely rookie mistake. People these days just don't get it.
Yeah, they don't put the heart into their work like John Titor did.
Right. They're so quick to tear somebody down from the future
Yeah.
instead of building something up.
Yeah, like a Corvette that can travel through time.
Right. Exactly.
And also, people have said that his predictions haven't come true. In our timeline.
Is that so?
Yeah.
You got an example of that?
Well, you know, of course, like we were talking about earlier, there was a Civil War thing that didn't happen. But also, he said that the last Olympics would be held in 2004 because that's when the Civil War would erupt, or I should say World War III, which the Civil War and World War III, according to him, happened at the same time.
Interesting.
Yeah, just unlucky, really, just bad stuff. But anyways, yeah, he said the last Olympics was 2004, which it clearly isn't because, you know, the Olympics are happening right now.
Right.
So,
Or so I've heard. I haven't actually tuned in to watch them, but
Yeah.
apparently they're going on
Yeah.
right now.
they were playing they were playing over the TV at a restaurant I was eating at last night. So
It's possible in his timeline, people just got bored of the Olympics.
that's definitely a possibility.
So we don't really know.
Yeah, and again, with the multiple timeline theories that he presented, it's possible he's just from a different timeline, you know?
Right. He could have accidentally found himself in a superior timeline where the Olympics have always been interesting.
Yeah.
And the U.S. doesn't plunge itself into civil war.
Yeah.
Maybe the Third World War was started because they stopped the Olympics and people wanted it back.
Yeah.
You know, we just really can't know. Too many factors. And, you know, Mr. John Titor made too many changes for us to be able to really, like, plot that course for.
And one more final thing. If this John Titor, if he was in our timeline, he would have already been on the Sam and Dan show. He would have contacted us, or our people would have contacted him, and he would have been here to talk about his journey, which he's not. So he's probably not in our timeline.
Right. Or maybe in preventing the shift in timelines, he actually prevented his own existence.
Wow. That,
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
yeah, or don't.
If you don't want
Yeah,
to.
if you don't want to smoke, don't do it.
Or if you're underage.
Yeah.
You gotta be
do it if you're
18,
underage.
folks.
Yeah. Okay.
So, speaking of smoking, we got some smoking good promos for you guys. Some really hot stuff. February 23rd at the Golden Pony, we've got Dorothea Cottrell and her special guest from 8 p.m. to 10:45 p.m. And again, that's February 23rd at the Golden Pony downtown. That's an opportunity if you're looking for some fresh live music. On the 24th of February, we got Lon Lon Ranch, which is Human Host plus Star Coast plus Static Collector plus Sleep Talker. And that's at Lon Lon Ranch from 9:30 p.m. to 12 a.m. That's a lot of bands for your money.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is, I don't know how much. I don't
That's a
know.
4-for-1 right there, folks.
I don't know if you actually have to pay. I believe there's a suggested donation. But if you're in town and that's the sort of thing you're looking for,
Yeah,
those are some opportunities.
those are definitely options.
You know, it's kind of weirding me out. This looks like my handwriting, but I definitely didn't write this.
He
But
probably did write it. He just doesn't remember because he had mono, wiped his memory.
or maybe I time traveled myself to the future
Oh.
and wrote these promos.
Definitely a possibility. And we're getting a call right now.
All right, the lights are going off. The phone is ringing. Dan is taking this call live on air. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed those promos. For the next portion of the show, we're going to be going into, you know, some of the most famous time travelers throughout history. there's a pretty expansive list since they've had plenty of time to show up and, make a name for themselves. And time travel is just such a popular topic in media, almost as popular as pretty much anything else, like the weather and politics. I know myself, I find myself selfily talking to my friends about time travel a lot because it's just something that's on my mind. And, if you think about it, we're constantly time traveling ourselves, but it's at the rate of 60 seconds per minute, and we can only go forward. So that's just something to think about. Time travel is a valuable asset in, personal development as long as you're planning ahead. All right, Dan, what can you tell us about that call that we just got?
Okay, so we had a listener who asked, it's been proposed that in time travel you can't actually you can't go back in time and change future events. It's basically flying in the face of the butterfly effect, because if you went back in time and you were, if you went back in time in your own timeline, there would be two of you, which is something that the universe...
Well, not if you went back far enough.
Very true.
Before you
Very
existed.
true. I didn't think about that. So what do you think? Do you think if you can change things if you go back in time? Or is that against time law?
I think if you decide to time travel or find yourself in a situation where you've accidentally time traveled or been forced to time travel against your will, I'd be very, very careful about what kind of decisions you make, especially if it's in the past. If you've been sent to the future and you'll be returning to the past, go wild.
Yeah, absolutely.
No skin off your back. Yeah. But if you're in the past, watch your step, because I think you can make some serious changes that ripple through time.
Yeah, butterfly effect. Ashton Kutcher, I think, was in that film. So,
Sounds
pretty
familiar.
reliable stuff.
Right, and you wouldn't doubt Ashton Kutcher.
Yeah, no way.
So that is something that you should consider.
Absolutely.
All right, so Dan, while you're on the phone, I was just telling our listeners we're going to be talking about famous time travelers, their portrayals in media, and their portrayals in real life who are alleged time travelers.
Okay.
But before we get into that, I just wanted to point out, all things considered, there are absolutely zero U.S. laws against time travel. So I just think that's interesting. It's almost like by refusing to acknowledge its existence, it's almost sort of an approval of its existence.
Absolutely.
By our government. Because people don't want to, waste their time, so to speak, coming up with legislation against time travelers when it could go either way, A time traveler could come back and change things.
Yeah.
And for better or for worse.
Yeah.
I think time travel is a very powerful force.
Yeah,
for good or for bad.
I definitely agree with you. And I have to add, the government probably isn't legalizing time travel because as far as we know, we can't do it yet. And so they're trying to encourage the people of our time to pursue it, because it is truly a pursuit worth pursuing.
Yeah, it's definitely worth going after. I mean, just think of the power you could have if you could, go back 20 years ago and invest some money in a small tech company or something.
Or also, think you're sitting in class and someone ties your shoelaces together, you get up and you fall. But what if you could go back in time and untie your shoelaces before you stand up? Huh?
Right. There are so many perks. Those signs that you missed from that cute girl in your math class way back in the day.
I know that game.
Yep. Yeah, you could go back in time and actually pick up on them. And I think, that's something that we can all universally relate to. Just, missing things, or sometimes finding things that you probably shouldn't have found, like accidentally finding your Christmas presents early and ruining Christmas. So if you could travel back in time to when you didn't find your Christmas presents, I think that's something I'd do.
Yeah, absolutely. We just had another question posed by a listener, curious as to what we would do with the time machine. And I think there are so many options out there when you have such power. But I think if I had to choose one thing, and there was a stipulation I forgot to add, that the time machine would break after one use. And I assume the use is...
So you get stuck wherever you went, or you get to go there and back?
I think you get to go there and back. Because if you got stuck,
Oh, that would kind of suck.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah.
All right,
depending where you go.
let's say there and back.
Yeah, there and back I think makes the most sense. If I could do that, maybe. Here's what I'm thinking: if I time travel back to 2001 and find this John Titor character, I could get in with him, and we could travel the time waves together as brothers, as friends.
Be time travel buddies.
Yeah,
as fellow time travelers.
And I could chill in his Corvette, and I would just leave my my time machine there, for some other goof to hop in, and he can travel once and then he'll get stuck. But
right,
I'd be roaming the time waves with my boy, which I think is everybody wins, really.
That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a little bit like wishing for more wishes, so you can't just time travel to a time where you have a working time machine.
Well,
and then abandon yours.
I say it's fair game, folks, and that's what I'm sticking with. What about you, Sam? You got any thoughts on this?
That sounds pretty good. I'm thinking
You're not invited, though, so just us two.
All right. I was thinking from, I don't know, money's something that people like, right? So from a financial standpoint, I was thinking I would probably go back to way back in the day, take out some stocks or something. But that made me think, how are you supposed to spend money in the past? Any money printed, recently is not going to show up as legal tender in the past, depending how far back you go. Like, if you try and swipe a credit card 50 years ago, good luck.
Yeah.
It's not going to be connected to an account. They probably can't even swipe credit cards.
They really can't. Yeah, no card scanners. I mean, that's a blessing, but...
Right. So you really got to take into account how good your money is from when they're making it.
That's why...
you can't spend any euros 50 years ago because they didn't exist.
My suggestion, if you're going back in time for purely financial gain, to exchange all your money for gold. And then
I didn't even think of that.
Get a big sack of gold and bring that back in time.
But what about bitcoins?
Yeah,
I think that's pretty pass-proof currency.
You put all your money into Bitcoin, put that on a USB, bring it back in time, go to the candy store back when, you could get a gumball for a cent, for a penny. Go there with all those Bitcoins. You're going to be the king of gumballs. You're going to be Gumball King.
You could get so many gumballs, find a cave, store the gumballs in a cave, let them age over time, and then open your aged gumball business, by buying the mine for pennies on the dollar.
Yeah.
Once it's been abandoned.
Yeah.
So, in the future.
Absolutely.
And then, boom, huge business opportunity.
Huge profit margin. And you could steal the name Hubba Bubba before Hubba Bubba gets a hold of it.
Right. You could just copyright, trademark, whatever you can get your hands on.
Yeah.
So, considering the ethics, though, Dan.
Yeah, ethics.
So it's not illegal. We know time travel is not illegal. Maybe because every attempt to pass anti-time travel legislation has been thwarted by time travelers, potentially. We don't know that.
Absolutely. Definitely a possibility. Time-traveling lawyers going back in time to get their clients off, maybe.
Right. Possible. I mean, if I was a time traveler who got sent to jail, I would hire the best lawyer possible because money is no object when you can time
obviously
travel.
If you're time traveling, infinite money.
Just recursively break yourself out again and again.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have to. You have unlimited tries because you can time travel. So you can just keep redoing the case. Forever. So obviously no time traveler is going to end up in jail, I think.
No.
But so legality aside, is it moral? Is it ethically wrong to time travel and benefit for your own gain? Is that an advantage that's unfair to other people?
I think it's definitely unfair.
But life isn't fair.
Yeah.
Just in general.
Yeah, again, life isn't fair. And I think in the future, when there is time travel technology, everyone will have the opportunity, theoretically, to time travel because there will be the technology. Not everybody will. So I think, against other people in the future, you're good. Everyone's got the opportunity. But, going back in time and making money for yourself, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I don't think you're hurting anybody. Unless, of course, you are stealing the Hubba Bubba name.
Right. If
good.
you're taking someone's intellectual properties before they exist even, is that unethical?
Yeah.
But they're not around to invent it yet, so they can't really complain or have that idea in the first place because you already had it.
Yeah, I think that moves out of the realm of U.S. law, or really international law, and gets closer to time law, which is a whole other.
As we all know, time law is very strictly enforced by time cops,
Yeah,
made famous by the movie Time Cop.
If you haven't seen Time Cop, Sam, do you think you could give us a quick rundown of what the movie was all about?
Right. So this is one of those classic media portrayals of time travelers.
A whodunit.
Right. Exactly. Great action movie. Stars Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Ooh,
And
nice.
in this movie, Time Cop, he works for the future time police. It's got a special name. I don't remember what. But
Time Daddies,
travelers,
I think.
the Time Stoppers?
Yeah.
Yeah, perhaps. But in this film, time travelers go back in time and steal Confederate gold in Georgia in 1863.
Mm-hmm.
So that actually has a little bit of a basis in reality. The Confederates hid millions of dollars worth of gold that's still missing to this day, either to like fund the Confederacy in the future or to hide it from Union forces.
Or just to hide it for fun.
Right. Maybe they just like buried treasure, read a few too many pirate novels or something.
Yeah.
But either way, there are real life millions of dollars of gold hidden from the Confederate treasury out there in America still today.
Mm-hmm.
And it's entirely possible that some of it was stolen by time travelers.
Yeah.
And we would have no way of knowing because the gold is missing. So maybe they took it back with them to the future as portrayed in the movie.
Mm-hmm. Definitely a possibility. But I have to pose this question. How would the time travelers from the future know where the gold is buried? Would they go back in time and hang out with the Confederates before the gold was buried and then, go and dig it up later once they all buried it as comrades? Or how do you go about doing this?
In the movie, they're transporting the gold unburied. It's unburied gold in a bunch of boxes.
Unburied.
In the back of a wagon.
Mm-hmm.
So they've got a sort of like military convoy going on and using superior technology from the future.
Yes.
Machine guns versus muskets here.
Yeah.
Easily dispatches the guards and the bad guy steals the gold that way.
Ah, okay.
So-
That makes sense now that I think about it. A lot more sense.
Right.
That
So,
seems to be the way to do it.
pretty exciting film. But, right. Any of that gold could be anywhere, and we just don't know.
But again, basis in reality, that's what we were really focusing on here. The time travel and the time police definitely are possible. And if you have time travel, you have to have some sort of time police to enforce it, because U.S. and international law ain't going to cut it. It
Right.
ain't going to cut it.
Otherwise, things would just get crazy.
Mhm.
Just given the power of time travel,
Yeah.
you don't know what's going to happen. There's a lot of potential there.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing in Time Cop, something else the time travelers do that should be illegal, in my opinion. They go back in time to 1929 to make gains off the stock market crash.
Mm.
So I feel like inciting a national panic in the U.S. and just destroying the economy because of your knowledge of future events. They took all their money out of the stock market.
Yeah.
In the movie. I think that's something that definitely we would have to keep an eye on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's definitely, again, that's a job for the time police. It's not something our police can handle. Time police, they're special trained to handle crime involving time manipulation, I guess you could say. They all drive
Right.
Corvettes, of course.
You could say they're the watchdogs
Yeah, yeah,
of chrono crime.
yeah. Absolutely, like McGruff, but he's got a clock.
Right. Kind of like Flava Flav mixed with
With-
McGruff, the
with-
crime dog.
Exactly.
It's just a powerful combination.
Just, after saying that, we're reaching the 45-minute mark.
Yeah, the time is now 6:45.
Yeah.
We're going to throw you guys the weather.
Yeah.
So we had a surprise rainstorm here in the valley. We could hear it in the studio.
Mhm.
Sounded like this whole place was getting thrown in a blender.
Yeah.
It was kind of scary. But right now we got temperature of 65, 85% humidity. It's going to be warming up throughout the week. I'm actually on the hourly forecast by accident. It's getting pretty cool tonight. A low of 49 degrees tonight.
Chilly.
And tomorrow will be a pretty high chance of showers at a cool about 50 degrees or so.
Okay.
So you might want to pack an umbrella.
Definitely.
Pretty high chance of precipitation. But overall, it looks like pretty nice. Things, spring has sprung, Dan,
Mm.
and I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm kind of bummed that I can't sleep under a bunch of blankets anymore without getting too hot. But, trade-offs.
You can still do that if you lay on top of ice cubes. Then
Why didn't I think of that?
Well, it's an option, definitely. But having said that, you listen to WXJ in Harrisonburg, the Sam and Dan Show, 88.7 on your FM dial, every Wednesday, 6 to 7. And we're talking about time travel. We've already covered some really the biggest name in modern time travel, John Titor.
Mm-hmm.
And we covered time police and the ethics behind time travel.
And what we would do if we could time travel.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Now we're diving back into more famous time travelers or time traveler tales of timular travel.
Mm-hmm. Tongue-twisting time traveler trails from from the future.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another big name in time travel,
Mm-hmm.
and this is kind of where public consciousness of time travel comes from for the most part. Looks like we're getting another call. Dan, do you mind taking that?
Keep taking it away, Sam.
All right. So big name in time travel, Marty McFly, made famous in the show or movie Back to the Future, and its sequel, Back to the Future 2. I'd recommend if you have access to those films, checking them out. I think they're a pretty great movie. You don't have to if you don't want. Maybe movies aren't your thing, but I think it's a good way to spend a couple hours. Anyways, so Back to the Future, it's pretty similar to the Titor recollection, in which the time machine is actually mounted to a vehicle by Doc Brown, Marty's scientist friend who discovers time travel. So the car in the movie is not a Corvette. It's a DeLorean DMC-12, which is famous for its gull-wing doors. Modern vehicles often try and ride the coattails of this famous car in this movie because it's just, such a cool portrayal of a vehicle, time machine, and media. But gull-wing doors are notoriously bad for maintenance. And I think the most widespread adoption of the doors is in the Tesla Model X. Pretty cool vehicle itself. But all right, so what was that call about, Dan?
So we had a listener posing yet another question.
Oh, I love questions. Thank you for calling in, listeners.
Yeah, they were curious. So if you were traveling, let's say you're in the year 2030 or 2036, you travel back in time, and you don't mess with the timeline, and then a modern version of yourself gets to the future. After a certain amount of time has passed.
So I'm in the future, and myself from the past travels to the future too?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's two of you.
Right. Past me and future me in the future.
Yeah, and you guys both, you travel to the past to meet yourself in another timeline. Could you possibly just have infinite versions of yourself? And and also the question was posed: How does aging work with time travel? Do you age at a normal rate, or could you just keep staying in between two time zones? Not global time zones, but I'm talking time zones as in time travel zones, and never age there, or does it time progress normally there? How does it work?
Those are pretty good questions. Thanks for calling those in, caller. Those are pretty thought provoking.
Definitely.
Given the time zone thing, you mentioned it, Dan, but I think, if you ever see that movie Snowpiercer about the train?
Actually, yes.
That goes around the planet?
Yeah, good film.
So they're constantly trying to stay in one single time zone. And even if you're going backwards around the clock, 24 miles or 24 hours per hour.
34 hours per hour.
If you're moving fast enough as the sun rotates around the earth, so you're constantly at the same time of day.
Okay.
You're still going to be aging. So even if you went, backwards, like, I don't know, like flight from LA to Tokyo, you land like 3 hours earlier than you took off, something like that. You're still aging in your own enclosed bubble. Because, unfortunately, the human body generates its own time field, which can't be disturbed by external time machines. That's what allows you to time travel. So I think what you could do is return back to a time later than when you left from when you were aging inside the time that you traveled of,
Okay.
So that it would be as if you hadn't aged or you had aged normally. You know,
Okay.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm following
So,
as best
so
I
if
can.
you, so if you go back in time for 5 minutes, you could come back to your own time like 10 minutes later,
Mhm.
and it would be as if you only aged 5 minutes,
Ah.
but you're now 10 minutes in the future. So you could kind of like, give and take a little bit to sort of extend your lifespan that way normally.
Interesting. Yeah,
But
it's
I
sort of
think
like
you
a
would still
fast
be
forward
aging.
button, more or less.
Right, essentially.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. I never thought about any of that. Powerful stuff.
Mhm.
And I guess that's why you keep the cesium clocks. They're the most accurate in the game.
That's why I need 4 of them.
Yeah, really, to make sure you're not missing any seconds. You got to get them all.
That's my take on barbecues as well, and all-you-can-eat buffets.
Yeah, absolutely. I can attest. The man
Don't
goes
miss
buck
seconds.
wild. Yeah. Okay, so getting back into famous
Right.
time travelers, what else you got for us, Sam?
All right, so while you were on the phone, I was talking about Marty McFly, Back to the Future.
Oh, yes,
And
I
it's-
heard you mention the Tesla Model X.
Yeah, the famous DeLorean being copied by the Model X.
Yeah.
But
a shame.
anyways, so even though it's very famous, the DeLorean was actually notoriously unreliable
Mhm.
as a vehicle. So listeners, if you're on a quest to build your own time machine, I would recommend something a little more durable, like perhaps the Flintstones vehicle,
Oh, yeah.
which will work regardless of what time period you're in.
Mhm.
Doesn't require external fuel, repairable with wood and stone
Yeah.
and canvas or leather, which is pretty much readily available materials no matter what time you're in.
Yeah, definitely. Well, maybe not in the future, but
Definitely right now and in the past.
yeah. I would say if you're going to roll with a Flintstonian-like vehicle, make sure you got the legs to back it up, because nothing's more embarrassing than getting your log all hooked up for time travel, and you get on the road and you start putting down the power, and you don't have enough to push yourself through time. Nothing's more embarrassing. All your boys are riding by in their Corvettes laughing at you. It's
Right.
the last thing you want.
That would be humiliating.
Yeah, had the legs to back it up.
But what about a bicycle? So, I mean, you got the same problems of like a car. Like if you have certain issues in a certain time period where bikes don't exist yet,
Oh, worst time
then
period
you
I
could
can
have
imagine.
problems. But, overall, probably more reliable than a car is. Probably easier to get spare parts for
Definitely.
or
yeah.
create them. What about a kayak?
You could definitely do that.
I mean, there's pretty much always going to be water or at least swimming pools, I would
Yeah.
imagine.
yeah, bring your kayak to the local swimming pool. Of course,
Hit 88 miles per hour.
you hit 88 miles per hour. You have your stationary mass temporal displacement unit powered up,
Right, you just get that thing going,
and then
start paddling.
yeah, and then the standard offset Tipler Sinusoid activates, and you just blast right through there in your kayak, and boom, you're in the future
There you are,
in a kayak.
in your kayak.
Yeah.
I think that could work.
Mhm.
That could be a good move.
All I can say is hopefully if you're doing the kayak thing, hopefully when you go to the future or the past, there will be a pool there also, because you will just appear wherever you are in a kayak. And it would be really embarrassing if you just appeared in like the middle of the road or a yard in a kayak.
That wouldn't be good.
No one wants that.
Go to famously old water
Yeah,
spots before
oldest
time
water
travel.
spots you can find. Oceans are preferable.
Or maybe just crank it back a few trillion years when the whole planet was water,
Mm-hmm.
essentially.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Definitely an option.
Just playing the safe side.
Yeah.
And, if that's not going to work out, I mean, most durable vehicle you can get some kind of like tank or armored personnel carrier, if
Yeah.
you really want to go all the way.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be hard. You got to find a hill if you're rolling in a tank, though, to get some speed. Corvette, of course, John Titor's ride of choice. Rips through time. Great body. Of course, I'm talking about the car.
Right.
Just, I wouldn't say it's the most reliable thing in the world, but it's definitely a beautiful ride.
Probably better, more reliable than the DeLorean would be.
Oh, definitely.
So, anyways, going back to the film, this one's pretty famous because he actually time travels to the future of 21st October 2015, where they have hoverboards and self-lacing shoes.
Wow.
Now, this date is especially notable because in real life, nothing actually happened 21st October. I don't remember anything.
No, I was
happening.
alive, and no, it was boring.
Right, 21st October 2015, nothing.
I had to
come
tie my
mind.
own shoes that day, and my skateboard didn't float.
Right, and we didn't
So-
get hoverboards until like last year, I think.
Yeah, really.
So we're kind of behind the curve
He
where
probably
we expected to be.
He probably went to a different timeline, a cooler timeline,
Mm-hmm.
with self-tying shoes.
Right. Apparently that's in the works, though, so keep your eyes out for that. I personally am sick of tying my own shoes.
Yeah, it's a
That's
waste
why
of time.
I only wear slippers everywhere or flip-flops.
Yeah,
But
they don't call him Slipper Sam for no reason. Or actually, they usually call him Slippery Sam because he's really slippery and hard to grab. But,
and because I wear slippers, too.
yeah, that also.
So another notable thing, speaking of time travel fashions, Marty McFly also travels to 1955, where he's mistaken for an alien because of his futuristic, high-tech looking clothing.
Yeah, like
So
denim
and silver stuff.
Yeah.
And chains. He's got a wallet chain, I think.
that's cool.
And, only aliens would have those in 1955.
Mhm.
So that's, being mistaken for aliens because of your futuristic look, common problem for time travelers.
Definitely.
And incidentally, something that happens to me at school a lot, just because of my next level fashion choices.
And his wallet chain.
And my super shiny chain. It's got LEDs in it.
Yeah,
It looks like it's about to take off.
yeah. Sometimes it does take off. But yeah, it happens to the best of us, really. You can't blame that on Sam or his fashion choice.
Right. It just comes with the territory
Mhm.
of looking like a time traveler.
Yeah,
You just got to
absolutely.
dress. You know what they say? Dress for the job you want, not the job you have.
Absolutely.
So that's why I try and wear as much silver spandex as possible and glowing lights.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to look like a time traveler,
Yeah, he's trying to look. He used to dress like a Wix Gym host, but then of course, he
And now I'm a
mastered-
Wix Gym host.
Yeah, yeah. And now he's a Wix Gym host, and he mastered it. So now he's moving on. He's wearing a lot of LEDs. He's ready for time travel. So
The studio is glowing right now. It looks like a Christmas tree
yeah,
has taken up residence in here.
and there's no Christmas trees or regular trees. It's just us.
Okay, so we only got a little bit of time left, Dan,
Yeah, a few minutes.
but thank you for joining us today, listeners. We're going to jump into the last two famous time travelers. So this one you probably heard of, Napoleon Dynamite, the film.
Yeah.
So in this movie, they dramatized time travel a little bit, where Uncle Rico and Kip, they buy some power crystals online from a shady crystal dealer. And I think the big takeaway from that, take the advice from the film. Only use a reputable source for your power crystals.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
If you're going online, to buy your power crystals, check the reviews for the crystals. Make sure people have had positive results from using them.
Right, AAA feedback or better.
Yeah, absolutely. Get to know your crystal dealer too. That's how you get the best power crystals.
Don't buy foreign crystals, as tempting as the prices may be.
Oh yeah, definitely. Most of the time, they're not even power crystals. They're just normal crystals.
Just regular old crystals.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely worthless. And
Not good for much.
some of you guys may be thinking, how do you tell if a crystal's good or not? How do I know if this crystal I found in my backyard is a power crystal or just a regular one?
Right. Well, let me tell you, Dan, as a crystal researcher, time travel crystals, power crystals, they're recognizable by their hard exterior but chewy center.
Ooh.
So if you take a bite out of the crystal you've got, and it's hard on the outside but chewy on the inside, that's how you know you got a legitimate power crystal.
Yeah.
If it's hard all the way throughout, it's just a regular crystal or perhaps just a rock. So, hard to distinguish visually, but if you toss it in your mouth and, give your molars a go at it,
Yeah.
you'll find out real quick if it's a power crystal or just regular.
Absolutely. And I have to say, if you're going to be biting your crystals, make sure they're small bites because you don't want to waste any. If you eat the power crystal, it's going to power up your stomach for a day. You're going to be able to eat extra hard. But, I mean, that's
So much energy, like 100 cups of coffee in one of those things.
easily. Absolutely. But you don't want to waste them. You want to use them for time travel because that's what you bought them for, I suppose.
Right. That's what you should be using them for.
Yeah, really. There are other uses. But
If you don't have a functioning time machine, start saving them for when you do.
absolutely. Or use your friends.
Right. It just makes sense.
Yeah.
It's good business.
And I think we're going to end on something that happened relatively recently. Stephen
Some
Hawking.
time traveling news.
Yeah, some time traveling news. Stephen Hawking's he actually hosted a party for time travelers, and he didn't send any invites because he knew that only
Interesting.
people from the future would show up because they would have heard about it. They would have traveled back in time and shown up.
So he announced the party after he had it.
Yeah.
That's genius.
Yeah, it's the best way to attract those future boys. And females, of course. I meant boys as a human term.
The general boys.
Yeah, boys.
Gender neutral.
Yeah.
BOIS.
Yeah, Z. Okay.
But so why didn't that work out?
Well, so nobody showed up, and the theory that we have, really, if you're going to travel back in time to go to a party, why would you want to go? Why would you want to go to Stephen Hawking's?
Right.
Of
all the parties throughout all of history,
Yeah.
really, Stephen Hawking just sitting there, not doing much.
I feel you would go to a real banger like Key West Fest.
Now that was a party.
Absolutely, just a party to define a generation. But anyways, that's the end of our show. We've gone a little bit over time.
Right. Again, thanks for bearing with us, listeners.
Yeah.
It's always a pleasure to be your host. Sam Dan Show every Wednesday, 88.7 WXJM Harrisonburg on your FM dial or available for streaming on WXJM.org. Check out our SoundCloud, Sam and Dan Show, where we post as many shows as we can.
If they record correctly.
Yeah, we got some finicky systems here.
Yeah.
But thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
And signing off until next week.
Peace out.